are so excited that we get to talk about, or to unabashedly speak about women's health over the course of the next 2 days, and to do so with some of the best talent and thinkers in everything from brain health to emotional health, mental health, rare disease catching, equity in health, lack of equity in health. So we are not doing just, or at all, candles and vaginal steamers. We're mostly going to focus on brains and brawn and the ways in which women are going to lead the movement forward in longevity and peace, and that we also, as women, are the most broadly marginalized, which only gets worse as we get into further intersectionality. We are the most marginalized. Well, I guess there are only two. There are a few genders, but we're fucked. So we're going to look at how we change that from a positive, optimistic standpoint. And we have amazing talent. We're starting with the person who I'm a bananas embarrassing fan of, Phoebe Robinson. And then we've got just an embarrassment of riches all day today and tomorrow. And yeah, we're stoked for you guys to be here. Please become our friends, participate in our community. This is not Goop, and it's a place for all people to find health and to look at how we live our lives with flow. We're launching a brand called Flow. Finding Flow is our hashtag. Finding Flow, if you want to type that somewhere. And flow is focused on how we find that which makes us present tense. How do we immerse ourselves in activities as women and not perpetually take care of others, although that's nice too. Thanks for that. We are looking at how flow and the experience of flow allows us to live a whole life health experience through science and stories. Took us a long time to get those words, so whole life health through science and stories. Our editors will talk about it. Our talent will be talking about all different aspects of health. And yeah, that's the deal. So Phoebe Robinson, who's far more interesting than I, is going to come on up. Come on.
Hello.
Hi, Phoebe.
How's it going?
So weird.
Look at it. I'm just
like,
trying to look at my thighs.
What
do we want?
Get them up there.
What do we want?
They're looking good.
What do we want?
I mean, this is a vagina-friendly place. So
I know, I'm just like, which leg should I?
It's hot though.
No
it's
one
all
cares.
amazing.
No
in
one
that
cares.
onesie.
Sorry, but the clock is ticking down. I'm like, my thighs. Hi everyone. Hello.
So the idea of interviewing Phoebe, because if you've listened to her amazing podcast, is sort of funny to me because I get to listen to her put forth the elegant yet hard-hitting interviews all the time where there's a quiet sense that she gets every joke, unless it's Michelle Obama, in which case it's just all fucking love. And so one of your essays in your unbelievable book, Do Not Sit on My Bed in Your Outside Clothes, talks about self-care as a radical effort, event, experience, and you throw in Audre Lorde, you've got the Black Panthers in there, and it was an article that I saw at a lot of places and found it profoundly interesting, optimistic, and real. So I'd love if you'd talk a bit about that, about how self-care is a political act.
Yeah, I mean, it should be. You know, I think, first of all, I love self-care. I love wellness. I love a self-help book. I think a lot of people feel that way, too. But I think you can very much get in the cycle of just like, okay, I'm buying candles. I got my notebooks. I got my bubble bath. And then, like, that's fucking it. And, like, nothing is really being addressed or changed, or they could just feel very surface level. And so I think a lot of times when we think about self-care, I think we forget sort of like really protecting ourselves and bettering ourselves and really taking that time to rest and not worrying about being productive, not worry about sort of like optimizing it in a way where it's just sort of like, okay, I'm clocking like how long I'm relaxing. Where it's just like, it's not about like the stats of it all, you know what I mean? And so with that essay, I just really feel like I was in a place, it was during COVID, I'm a reformed workaholic, and so I, started going to therapy and doing all these things where I just sort of was able to bring myself back to myself instead of being so focused on being productive, checking things off my to-do list and really getting deeper and sort of understanding that self-care is also about bettering yourself in the hopes that it will help better your community as well. And I think that piece is often forgotten a lot of times, and I'm trying to work on that too, because I don't know any of my neighbors' names. I go in and out of my fucking apartment building. But about really connecting with people and sort of building this together. Like you can't, what is it, better together? Is that what it is?
Something like that.
Something like that.
Similar. We're together, better.
Yeah. So I just really wanted that essay to be fun and also just talk about self-care in a way that gets us out of this trap of self-care equals spending money on things, because then it becomes like a classist issue and those sorts of things. So that's really what's the purpose.
And I think Audre Lorde, who you reminded me of her incredible community activism, and how health ties to that. How do you look at the impact of the individual's health on the wider community, whether it's your community around you, all your people?
Yeah, I mean, if your health is not in great shape, if you're not eating well, if you're tired all the time and not sleeping, if you can't show up for yourself, there's going to be no way that you're going to be able to help contribute with your community. So to me, it's very important to take care of yourself in a way that feels authentic to you, that feels organic to you, that's going to be super beneficial. It's not about a scale, it's not about the size of your jeans, what have you, but just really trying to feel good in a world that, especially for women, is always reminding us of the ways that we're coming up short, the ways that we need to improve, like what we're supposedly lacking. Because if we're just focusing on the lack, then we can't actually get shit done, which is what they want. So that's where my.
And how do you, as the reformed workaholic, which I don't totally believe that you're in reformation.
No, I am. I take time off now. I do.
Okay, when?
I
like
do,
5 minutes ago?
No, one week in a month. I don't do any stand up, and I just go off the grid and I tell people to leave me alone. And I started doing it this year, and it's great. Okay. I love it. Yeah.
And yes.
Thanks, you boys.
I agree. So good for everybody. Okay, and then so COVID changed your work ethic, or not work ethic, probably the way that you work. It sounded like from the amount of that I've listened to your conversations. And it felt like you are emerging with the work is gonna be good. Like we're not messing around. We are here to play. It's, your work's always been incredibly professional and amazing and enlightened my life. But I'm wondering how that contemplation of content and content making is evolving for you, be it COVID or other.
Yeah, I just hate the word content. It is so.
I know. Okay.
No, not. No,
tell us.
But it's good to use in this context. But I just am like, our lives are not content. Like, we're not living to produce shit to put online for likes. Like, it is crazy to me.
I am.
No, but
is that wrong?
We shouldn't. There is such a I think just even conversations with people you see, it's always looming about you just feel in the background okay, who's gonna ask who first to take a picture so we could it's just no, and I'm not saying this about you, Sam. I've
asked for no fewer than 17 photos with Phoebe in the past 5 minutes.
No, but it's just this culture that we live in where it's we're never fully in the moment. We're never fully in the pocket, because we're always thinking about what is our social status? What does this mean? When am I going to post a picture so I can get the most likes? And it's just it really is taking over people's lives and warping our brains to think that the only way we can interact with people is if we also document it as well. And so for me, I have a love-loathe relationship with social media. I understand it's a necessary evil. I have a production company and an imprint, so I need to be visible so people can know the projects that I'm working on. But at the same time, I don't want us to lose sort of our humanity and sort of the ability to connect with people. And I think that was like one of the things in COVID, like people were really missing that connection. And social media, while it helped, it is not a sufficient sort of, it's not a sufficient sort of.
Mark Zuckerberg did that. He just turned it right off.
It's just not the best, it's not the best replacement for a one-on-one human interaction. And so I just,
okay, so content is then, if it's not, because I agree, it's not social. You have amazing work coming out from your imprint. That's not content, it is.
Yes. Yeah, so that's, so I have an imprint called Tiny Reparation Books. Thank you. Which is so fun. We launched in 2020. We have 6 books coming out this year, 7 books coming out next year. I really wanted it to be curated and small because I've always been a big book lover. I've always was writing short stories as a kid. And so when I launched this during COVID, I was just sort of like, this is my dream come true. And I knew how hard it was for me when I was shopping my first book around, You Can't Touch My Hair. In 2015, it was so difficult to sell. Like only one publisher wanted to work with me because everyone else was like, oh, this isn't relatable. No one buys books written by black women. Funny black women don't sell. Like all these things that I was told, right? And then the book came out. It was on the New York Times bestsellers list for 2 weeks, which is, thank you. It was very exciting. That happened in 2016. And then all these people came back to my lit agent, Robert, and were like, why didn't you send us this book? We would have loved to have published it. And he was like, I did, and this is what you said. So all that is to say that when I had my imprint come out, I really wanted to be a place where no one, if I do pass on someone's book, it's not because of how they identify, their race, whatever. It's just I don't feel like I'm the best person to shepherd the book forward. But I think what's been great about the imprint is we publish, poetry, nonfiction, fiction. We have a book coming out next week, March 14th, called The Body Liberation Project by Chrissy King. This amazing, brilliant black woman who was, she was a trainer, and then she really just sort of saw the world of fitness in a way that didn't jive with her, and she really wanted to move the needle past body positivity, which I think can be limiting and sort of feel kind of commercial, and get to body liberation where we're really valuing the whole process, whether it's like the health industry, the medical industry, all those things to make it more of an even playing field for everyone. So I'm really excited about that book. She's brilliant. And I'm really happy that I get to publish all these debut authors, and they birth their babies, and I just get to sit back and look like I'm the cool one and have amazing taste, but they're all brilliant, so yeah.
And it does feel like where the superficiality of content and the need for likability, which I think is a whole conversation of, that I could benefit from. But I think that your commitment, it seems long-term in your career too, not long-form specifically, but deeper, meaningful. Like it must be somewhat painful to watch as a writer, a deeply impressive comedian, as a podcaster, to watch the snippet of content, to watch the lack of depth, or the depth being removed. How do you make commercial some of the deeper thinking so that people, or the longer content, the content that's challenging? Because I feel like you do that in a really special way, and maybe it's comedy, maybe it's that piece.
Yeah, I think part of it is, I think the first thing is I just try to have laser focus on what I want to do. Like there are people who can do short snippet comedy content, whatever, and it's great, but I like for my things to be more in depth and have more of a discussion and conversation. I think with comedy, it's a great way of doing that, because if someone's laughing, that means they're listening. So you can really, it can range from like dick jokes to something like, more profound. And so I think that, but you know what I mean? Like you can just have that wide range of ways of accessing people. If they're like enjoying you and feeling like they're having a good time, and you can like sort of sneak in a couple of like tidbits of what you really want to say. But I really I think for me, and I think it's true for a lot of people who do have the success they have, they really have just decided they're going to be themselves in the most purest of forms that they can, and it works out for them. And so, am I the most famous, person on the planet? Absolutely not. But I feel like, no, Sam, stop. No. But do I feel like really proud of the stuff that I'm making? Even if only like, a small number of people watch, I still feel like I made something really good that I can look back on and not cringe over. And that's the goal.
And so in terms of not returning to, but when you have so many formats for your exploration and talent infusion, are you contemplating returning to the stage, the road? And as you are thinking about that, what subjects do you think would be most pressing right now?
Yeah, so I started back doing stand-up this year, which has been so fun, because I started out 2008 doing stand-up. That's how I got into comedy. So, yeah, it's been really fun. This is the most fun I've had doing it, the most I've enjoyed doing stand-up, because I think I used to be so in my head about it. I always have a pit in my stomach before a show. I was so worried about, like, are the male comedians going to think I'm funny? And blah, blah, just like all that shit the industry does to psych you out. And I was just like, this is the funnest fucking job that I have. So I'm just going to enjoy it. And so it's really been fun. And so I'm starting to go out on the road a little bit, which has been really good. And so between that and the imprint, like, I'm really just, I don't know, I'm just having a really fun transitional year in terms of just creating things and also, like, helping other people create things, which is really something I've always wanted to do as well. So it's been good. I'm stoked.
How about, do you think there will be a podcast anytime soon so that I can actually drive to and from New York happily without listening to so many white guys, the real so many white guys?
I mean, I would be open to it. Look, I really, Two Dope Queens certainly put me on the, thank you. Certainly put me on a map in a huge way, really changed the trajectory of my career. I just want to make sure it makes sense and it's right. And I think right now so many podcasts are just kind of not terrible. They just feel the same, and here's the thing. I didn't say terrible. She said it. But what I will say is, when Jessica and I did it, I think it was it was around the time with, like, Mark Maron and all that stuff. So it really felt like this new medium that's in a way that felt really fun and sort of a little bit like, what are the rules? And then now it's just very much like every celebrity has a podcast. And, like, I love Ellen Pompeo, but she already has enough. She doesn't need... She is a gajillionaire, was on the biggest TV show for like 20 years. Stay the fuck out of podcasting for the other people that really, it really, you know what I mean? Like, it's really, and I didn't mean to get an applause break for that, but I think one of the things that I really loved about podcasting is that it was so exciting to hear so many different new voices, and I don't want that to get drowned out by the fact that now A-listers are like, oh, podcasts seem like a good way to make money now when they wouldn't have done it, like, 10 years ago, and now they're in there, and so then now it's pushing out people who are trying to find their voices.
Right. Well, I think it's also a really unique skill. It's not like being interviewed on the radio. You are driving a conversation for like an hour sometimes and making it interesting enough that, like, people can get through their drives in LA. Like, it's a really different skill. I think it's like, to me, it feels more akin to being, I don't know if it's like an author or it's like, it's like stand-up probably is the thing it's most like, because you're coming up with a narrative and then infusing it with moments of connection. That's just my riff. It's not a question. But so I have on the health front, this is an odd gear switch. Yeah. Comedy, I think, we talk about flow, as mentioned, and finding your flow, whether it's sex or chess or rock climbing or knitting or whatever. A lot of people, as we were asking this question, said it is like when you laugh, like laugh really hard, you can be present tense. And so I love the idea of you returning or doing a lot more stand-up in the same moment where you're saying get present tense. Yeah. What makes you feel super present tense or in the pocket, as you said?
Ooh, I do feel like because I know you were like trying to be like, are you really like working less? I'm trying. But I try to start my morning every day with exercising, just because that tends to be like the hour where, like, there's no emails, there's no texts, no one's bothering me. I will wake up like early, like 6:30, and just like work out. I do Peloton. Emma Lovewell. Hey girl.
Lovewell, where is that?
Emma Lovewell in the house. But I really do. I try to do Peloton, and I take some like Pilates reformer. Like, I'm really like in my like white lady like Kate Hudson moment, you know? Did you guys see, like, Kate Hudson in her Instagram during COVID, she was always on her fucking reformer. I'm like, bitch, we are broke. We do not, this is not relatable content. We do not have reformers in our houses, but I lived through her, so. So I take Pilates reformer classes at Club Pilates to help. And then I feel like I'm doing a better job of staying connected with my friends. I think a lot of times with work, like, work will always be the first thing. And so then I'd be like, oh, I can't hang out with you. So I miss, like, baby showers and weddings and just parties and all these things. And then I got to a place where I was like, well, yes, I love the work, but that can't be the only thing. So I really try to have, like, friend dates, have people over, and be spontaneous, too. Like, I was at the Met, not to brag, but I was at the Met Museum.
You're a white lady.
I know.
You're a fancy white lady.
No, I was looking, I was like, I don't care about this Greek shit. I went to, like, the black section. I was like, we get it. But and I just texted a friend. I was like, oh, I'm in the neighborhood. And she was like, oh, I'm walking around Central Park. And so then we just met up and had dinner. And so I'm trying to do more of that and be less, like, controlling with my schedule and just allow the, like, life to happen.
And that's like the flow that I feel like I'm just as likely to show up if someone does that as I am if you invite you like 6 weeks earlier and you do the like, I can't wait to cancel because I just want to like snuggle in my bed.
Yeah.
But I love that version where it's like, here I am, and you're like, I got 2 hours, let's go.
Yeah, and like also don't overcommit. Like I was the queen of like, I would always say yes to anything because I don't want anyone to feel like I'm letting them down. And then I leading up to certain things, I'd be like, I really don't want to fucking do this. And it's like, but you said yes.
Yeah.
And so now I just go, no, I can't do this. And then most people are like, okay, and they move the fuck on because it's like, I'm not the only person that they need for whatever thing. So I think it's just like taking that pressure off and just being like, okay, I can say no. People really don't care if you say no. They like let it go, and then it's great. Hi. I'm just like.
Okay.
There's so much shooting under. Why are we doing this?
I know. She wants legs. She wants that. She wants up in there. She's not moving also. I love you. Yeah. She's like, and I'm not going to move because it's awesome. I totally relate to the friend part, being very present tense. People who have known you, who love you, who can make you laugh. And for me, present tense is often that, or being extremely tripping on mushrooms. It's the other one if you want to be really present tense. But laughing loud with friends is where it is. So yet another fun pivot. As we talk more about self-care, or not self-care, sorry. Well, about health and women's biology. We're going to get super sciencey later on this stage with some neurology experts. And it was hard to find, not hard to find, but there are not a lot of women who get to be neurology experts in the world. All the optimization dudes, like the Flow Bros, are, own that space. So we have some wonderful scientists, and they are talking about how we sometimes call our body parts cute things. And I can't do without vagine, which you coined for me. How do you feel about our reluctance as a society to talk about vaginas, uteruses, to know the difference between ovaries and the function of the uterus, vagina and vulva? I didn't know I was going to spew all these words at once. But is it because we're embarrassed? Is it because we're normalizing? What do you think?
Well, I think in the past, society, if they care about something, then they'll give a shit to like know the difference. And so there's a lot, to me, it just felt a little bit like, oh, we don't really care about women. We don't care about women's health or women's bodies. So we don't need to dig into this. We don't need to know how the proper definition for things. And so now it feels like having more of these open conversations, and just whether it's like Ali Wong talking about what it's like post, birth and like breastfeeding and all that stuff, and just being honest, and a lot of women feeling the way that she was feeling in her specials, like it just helps to normalize things, whether people are talking about postpartum depression or just sort of like, I don't know, anything when it comes to women's bodies and health. I think now we're in a space where we're starting to have more conversations, and I think we're also facing more pushback.
We're in Texas, so no one get pregnant.
Yeah. But
you don't want to.
Yeah, so it's a lot of, it feels like the more we're making more advances, the more that we're, fighting the fight. And so I think right now it's really tricky, but I think what we can do is just keep being loud, keep being in people's faces, like don't let up, because that's what the powers that be want. They want us to get tired and just give up. And so if we just keep going, I'm gonna fucking talk about this shit every day and tire you out, like I think it's great.
Yeah. And you do it beautifully, yeah. I think you talk about the needs of the vagine very, very, in a really awesome way. Like it doesn't, yeah.
Wait, how do you, vagine, how do you say it?
Am I saying it wrong?
No, you're making it like French. I love it. I'm like,
I see you write it also.
Making it international. I love it. No.
Say it properly.
Vagine. Yeah, vagine. There we go. But yeah, let's just.
Vagine?
Yeah, let's just do. We're all good at nagging, so let's put that energy to good use.
Do you guys all want to say in your own accent? Vagine.
Vagine.
Vagine. Come on. I want to hear it a little tiny bit louder.
No, it's okay.
Okay, you're right. You're right. That's precious.
They're cute. They're shy gals. I like. It's cute. Yeah.
I mean, it's got a lot of work, the vagina. It does. It has a lot to do. And one of the interesting things we're seeing about health and talking about is that reproductive health is the way we refer to this, our apparatus of everything. I'm still learning what like fallopian tubes specifically do, which is weird because only 5% of women at any given time globally are either pregnant or trying to get pregnant. And yet that's the thing that we're known for.
Right.
Like, that's the thing.
Again, it's like not seeing women as humans, as whole, as only as just being like breeders. And, there are women who can't have kids, who don't want to have kids, and to just have women just reduced to just one thing instead of like accepting like our totality of our existence is just disgusting.
It is disgusting.
Yeah. Don't love it.
And it's even worse when you go, not even worse. The badness is like in your reproductive years, God forbid you're not using your very complicated body that does everything from, your ovaries, we're going to hear about this later, from periabium, but regulates sleep. It regulates brain function. And we're not talking about that. We're just like, do those little eggies want to kick out some children for the Christians? And that's it. That's all we're talking about.
It's true. And it's just like, we just get dealt a bad hand because these guys, like, they're not defined by how many kids they can have. So many of them wait till like in their 50s and 60s to get it going, and it's like, ugh, you had to fuck that? Okay. I'm just like, David Foster, fucking seriously? Okay. I just don't get it. Like, I love Catherine McPhee, but she's just like, oh, we have so much in common. I'm like, do you really? Okay. Same joint checking account? Is that what you have in common? Listen, working is, she was just tired. She was like, listen, I don't want to do auditions anymore. I'm with you, Catherine. I might fuck a 60-year-old to get the hell out of this hellscape I'm in. I don't know. But let's just be honest. Just say, I don't want to work no more. Then I'd be right there with you, not like, we were two souls in the night, blah, blah, blah. Shut the fuck up. So dumb.
We got a little taste. Okay, so we're round. I don't know what they're doing. What does
Sorry,
that clock
Catherine,
mean?
again. I don't know what's going on with me. Okay.
That was good. Okay, wrapping. Okay, so for
they're like, can you wrap it up? That was
perfect. That was perfect. I think they're actually worried that I'm going to get fired and we're never going to get a sponsor again. Okay, so are there any like big questions for Phoebe that you would want to throw out?
Let's hear some cues.
Yeah, everybody's adorable. Okay. Do you want to yell it out, dude?
What's your name?
Yep.
Faith? Cute. Ooh, that's a good question. I'm not reading as much as I want to right now because I'm in the process. I'm about to move apartments in Brooklyn. But I am about to start reading Eat, Pray, Love. I don't know if this is because I'm newly single and I really just want... I've never read it. And I was just like, let me just try and... Because, okay, so I think I want to write a novel. So I'm trying to...
Oh, yes.
And so the novel idea that I have is about, you know, this woman who sort of is like traveling and blah, blah, blah. I won't get too much into it. So I'm trying to read books that are about like women on solo journeys. So don't judge what the fuck I want to read.
Yeah. Judging, because now I feel like you really are working for that middle-aged white woman.
No, it's just...
You're like literally everything.
Well, I mean, to be honest, not
Buy
a lot.
books.
No, but not even that. It's not about that. But it's just there's not a lot of sort of like solo women of color books that are published about traveling and being on the road. So you kind of have to read what's out there. So that's more of an indictment of the publishing industry as opposed to my personal taste. Thank you very much.
That clarified everything. Thank you. That is so much better. Any other biggies? I see you. You see her.
Yeah.
Yes. Stand up. Why not?
What's your name? Yesenia? Ooh, yeah. Yeah, so my writing process, whenever I answer this question, I'm just kind of like, it's not really that glamorous. I use an app called Pomodoro, Pomodoro, and it's all about like timed focus, and you get a break. So it's like 25 minutes, you work, 5-minute break, 25, 5, 25, 5. 25, 15, get like a long break. So I put my phone and the computer on Do Not Disturb, turn on some music, light a candle, sit down, and I just get down to writing. Like, I think when I was a baby writer, I had to be very precious, and I was like, I can't be, like, I'm just like, you gotta get the fucking job done. You know what I mean? So I'm very much just like, this is work. And so I really do treat it that way. And some days, like, I get a lot done. Other days, I don't get as much done. I'm just like, that's part of the process. Like, I feel like procrastinating and doing stuff around the apartment is a part of my writing process because I'm thinking about stuff, and then when I sit down, I write. So I don't write every day. That's what I will say. And are definitely usually like white male authors, especially like old school ones who will be like, I wake up at 5 a.m. and then I have a fucking walking stick and I go into the forest alone with my thoughts, and then I come back and I'm like, you don't do that. Take your walking stick and fuck off. It's not what you do. It's not like this magical birthing experience of literature, you know what I mean? So it's really, and I'm always just, hair in a ponytail, and, it's fun, but it's definitely work, and some days it's good and some days it's not. But are you a writer? And it's like, what I just said is basically probably what you go through, right? Where yeah. I wish it was more glamorous. Hi, black lady. Yes, what's your name? Tracy? What? Racine. Okay, great, yes. Oh, gosh. I mean, rejection is still happening every day. That's just kind of part of the process. It's one of those things where you go like, oh, I think I'm going to reach a point and it's not going to happen anymore. And I remember when I was interviewing Kevin Bacon, and I was just like, and this was it wasn't the podcast. It was like when we were just setting up or whatever. And I was like, oh, I'm sure you just like get to do like whatever you want. He was like, no, there's still things that I like get passed on, or people like don't want to work with me, or I don't get every gig that I want. And I was like, what? I was like, you've been around forever and you're so talented, blah, blah. He's like, the rejection's always going to be there. And I feel that way too. So I think for me, what has always been useful is that I always just made sure I spent my time, building out my toolkit, making sure like all the things that I want to do when I want my dreams to come true, I'm actually ready for them. Because I think so many times you can get focused on, I want this thing, without doing the work to make sure you're prepared for it. And you're never going to be, quote unquote, 100% ready for something. But if you want to be an author, you should be writing, whether it's like you have a blog, whether you just like journal every day. You should be reading lots of books. If you want to be a director, you should get into like a director's program. You should just make sure you're doing the work and showing up, because even when you get the things that you want, it's just more work. So you can't always just go like when I had my show that got canceled, but Everything's Trash, when I had it, like it was so fun, but I was in the eye of the storm all the time because I was writing and producing, starring in it. And so I didn't really have moments to really be like, oh, this is so fucking cool. I just had to make sure that with this budget of $35 million to shoot 10 episodes that like we stayed on budget, we got everything done, and I wouldn't have been able to do that if I wasn't preparing myself and teaching myself how to be a producer with every project and writing all this time. So I think like the rejection, I don't mean, rejection is God's protection. Like, I hate when people say that. I'm like, no, sometimes rejection fucking sucks and it hurts. It's not, like we don't need to pretend like it doesn't. But I always think that when you're rejected, sometimes you're getting a little extra time to prepare yourself for when the right thing does happen. And then you can just step into it and be like, oh, shit, yeah, I fucking belong here. I know what I'm doing. And then maybe if you got the thing that you wanted sooner, you would have blown it. So that's how I try and look at it, but I still get rejected now, and it's really hard.
And all these people are rejecting my desire to stay on stage right now.
Oh, we have to leave. Wait, there's one. Can we just one last?
Yeah.
Can we do one? I'm so sorry. There's just one last person. Everyone's annoyed by me. Okay. Hi, Kristen. Aw. Thank you. Thanks, Kristen! Thank you. That's a great ending. Thank you. Thank you guys so much.